Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. Anyway, folks, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Joe from LA is in the house. Joe, I hope the fires are still keeping themselves away from you. Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia says, good afternoon, PDR Posse. We also have, of course, Breach MCP says, hola. First, he takes down the reproductive site. Then the health department in the middle of bird flu. Trump administration directs federal health agencies to pause communications. Very, very silly. Transition time. Bird flu. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to have human to human transport. I'm going to tell you something. This stuff about, oh, it's only happening between animal to animal or animal to human. The fact that it jumped, folks, we're about to have a president who could potentially, like he killed over 400,000 people that didn't have to die with the pandemic during his administration with COVID. He is about to repeat his irresponsibility again? Question mark. Well, if something comes up, he will. Welcome aboard, Melanie Keelan. Well, first of all, Bridge MCP is from Binghamton, New York. Melanie Keelan is in the house. She says it's been a long week. Yes, it's been a long week. Melanie Keelan is from Barcelona, Spain. Michael Rudnin is in the house. He is from Brooklyn, New York. He says CBS News, Trump administration removes Spanish version of White House website. The move echoes Trump's first term in office when the landing pages for Spanish language communications was also unavailable. I figure this is part and parcel of the Project 2025 plan for a white Christian nationalist theocracy where the multiculturalism is killed off and English is declared the national language. Let me introduce everybody that's here so far, but I want to do a soliloquy on that, okay? Bridge MCP says, Egberto, please read and then screen. All right, let's see what it says. Okay, let's go ahead. Exactly right. Let's do this. All right, let's put it on the screen. I'll go for that one real quick first. And the screen, according to Bridge MCP, if January 6th Capitol riot was Antifa, BLM, and FBI agents, why did Trump pardon them? Exactly. Some things must be asked not only once, not only twice, but continuously. All right. Anyway, I want to continue welcoming folks. We also have in the house Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita, Lee Grant from Montgomery County. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Okay, here's the deal. And this is not a knock on any individual. This is a knock in our false sense of, what should I say? You know, we are, what is the word that we use? We're exceptional nation. That's how we call ourselves, an exceptional nation. We're an international nation because everybody looks up to the United States. We're the most powerful nation. And here we have a president that instead of being forward looking, and this starts with Reagan as well. Instead of doing these things right, he diminishes us. He goes ahead and he takes off Spanish from the website. Do you know just about in every country in the world, people speak more than one language. It's not necessarily their language in English, but it's 2, 3, 4, 5 languages. In my case, I speak fluent Spanish, fluent English, I dab into Portuguese, dab into other patois, etc. Okay? You want the way you have international communications, if you have people speaking multiple languages, and that is encouraged. And the reason that encourages is for an exact reason for something that happened to me on a plane on my way back from a convention in DC to Houston. I spoke English and Spanish. Somebody else there spoke German and Spanish. And the other person spoke, I don't remember what. But what happened is the three of us in this row, The German person understood the German person, translated to Spanish. I translated the Spanish to English. It was I think I remember now. It was German, Spanish, German on one side, and English. And because there was a German Spanish, I could translate from the German. The German spoke to the German translated to Spanish. I translated from Spanish to English. So the three of us were able to have a conversation because two of us there had multiple language and we had the intersectionality of a language. My thing is the following. We have a government, we have an ideology, we have a group of people that are intent on maintaining their following dumb, backwards looking, a false sense of entitlement, a false sense of who we are. Many of us, make this country exceptional. Unfortunately, it isn't the ones that think they're exceptional. Many of us, and that's where all of us originally coming from an immigrant background, instead of using that as a growing mechanism, as a mechanism that grows us around the world, we try to do something to make us less. Rodnin, there is something to that message that irks me, but it should irk all of us. Because whether currently there are many who just speak one language. That is a fault of our educational system. We can't blame the individual because our standardized education centralizes on English and English only. It's a horrendous thing to do. It's a terrible thing to do. As a growing nation, as the most powerful nation in the world, we shouldn't have just the elite being able to speak many languages. You know, that is how they keep you down. That's how they keep an elite. Let me give you a Panama story, right? Back in when I was growing up, the Panamanians like myself, those of Caribbean descent, we were there speaking English, Spanish, and Patois. Okay? And interestingly, that gave us an edge on the canal. So when the canal was being transferred to Panamanians, right, all the people that had great jobs were the West Indians, folks with Caribbean origins who spoke fluent English and fluent Spanish. English without a severe accent, and Spanish as any Panamanian would speak Spanish. Those are the people who ran the canal. West Indians were the pilots. West Indians were the port captains. West Indians were all these things on the canal. But as always, what many in a community would do, in a government would do, who is not a true multicultural government, in Panama, what we would call the rabiblancos, what they did is they ensured that all of us West Indians, etc., they were all just taught going forward in Spanish. So my cousins, all of my cousins and relatives right now, the only language they speak is Spanish. And what has that done? That has allowed that all the jobs on the canal, and by the way, the canal paid more than any other job in the Republic of Panama. All the jobs now are going to the elite in the country. The folks who go to private schools that teaches English, Spanish, French, German, and all these other languages. And my West Indians that were the bastions of the canal, as generations move on, are becoming less and less employable until some have started a movement to change that. It's the same thing that has happened here in America. when you hear you have all these programs, English only, or stop you from reading books, stop you from reading history, you may think that is being nationalistic, and it to some extent it is. It's a white nationalist sort of a facade that they put on you, but it is also something that brings you down. White nationalism harms white people more than anyone else. Racism hurts them more than anything else. And you know why? Because again, it makes one weak. It makes one less intelligent. It makes one stop thinking forward. You know why you have the Tiger Woods taking over? Because he has had to face so much prejudice, etc., that he had to be so much better. A lot of folks don't get it. They are trying in separating us and splitting us apart. They're making us dumb. And that little action by the president, just put in the website in English, no Spanish. It is sending a message. It is sending a message, an insular message. And that message will harm all of those who are picking up that MAGA movement, thinking they're getting, they're doing something nationalistic. No, they're not. When Donald Trump is looking at his elitists, he's not looking for his Appalachian white brothers and sisters. That's not what he's doing. He's just following the green, the money, whoever has it. And it doesn't matter what they look like, but they have you thinking that you should be something that some way that you aren't, as he take you to the cleaners. It's the whole bread and circus mechanism. We keep you fed and we keep you entertained. We don't keep you educated. Entertained and fed, not educated. And that is the goal. That is the goal. All right, let's see. Bridge MCP, Blue Sky. Michael Rudden gave some information on that. Let's see what else we got here. Lee Grant is in the house. Hey, all, he says. Lee Grant says, nice to see feds finally getting serious about border. No, they're not. They're not going to do a damn thing about the border. They're going to just use the border as a form of making money. And if you haven't figured that out yet, remember what I tell you about what they do to your minds? The whole border issue is yet another grift. They're going to get their people who hold people hostage in these concentration camps. They will use that so that their good people, their friends, make money. And the farmers who need people to pick the fruit and cosechar, the harvest the vegetables, they're just going to have bribes paid to look the other way for the figs. You don't get it. You don't get it. All right. Washington Post. This one is from Michael Rudden, Washington Post. Here are executive actions and orders Trump signed on day one. We're tracking the executive orders Trump signed on day one. Trump declared a national emergency, and the current situation at the southern border qualifies as an invasion. That's a joke. Trump halted refugee admissions for at least 4 months and designated cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. You know why he did that? Because if he wants Mexico to believe he's setting the stage that maybe we will just go into Mexico without being invaded. We'll just go in and take over what we need to take over. Not going to happen. What we have here is the prelims to a war with Mexico. So much for Trump as an anti-war president. The war powers belong to the Congress, and I think if Trump were to attempt that, Congress will probably start to reassert its war powers. All right, did Trump, from Newsweek, fact check, did Trump raise prescription drug prices? Yes. Trump reversed former President Joe Biden's order on lowering prescription drug costs for Americans on Monday. Rated true. Needs context. Trump's rescission of Biden's order is unlikely to immediately increase the cost of prescription drugs for Medicare and Medicaid recipients. However, it makes it easier for drug companies to raise prices in the future, although the extent and the timing of any impact is unclear. I spoke about that yesterday on the show, if I remember correctly. Either that or the previous one. All right, Steigen Bergen Creek says, to be fair, Egberto, of the billions of people on the planet, a very small percentage speak more than one language. Here is the deal. Whenever we talk about other countries, right, we're talking about, let me correct myself. Countries that are forward looking. Every country that's forward looking, its people speak multiple languages, and that includes China. And I know folks are going to say, but what about the people in the interior of China where they don't speak many languages? Again, that's understood. But in the metropolitan portions of every country, from Nigeria to South Africa to Burkina Faso, all these other countries, people speak multiple languages. I hear you, Bergen Greek. I hear you, but I'm saying for the people, the forward-looking countries, most people speak several languages, and the trying to hold back in languages is a form of enslaving people. Our diverse multicultural nation would benefit if we all used a common language. It doesn't become multicultural. We all use a common language. English is the common language in America. But by having a common language doesn't mean you disregard or stop people from attempting to learn others. That's the difference. We want to declare English as the national language. We want to, all these things that we want to do make no sense. It just make you dumber. Okay. Joe says, a joke I say, I need to learn Esperanto. I have a friend that speaks Esperanto, so I can finally speak a language. Nobody will understand this joke, though, sadly. You see, I do understand the joke. Esperanto, a friend of mine taught me how he knows how to write it, he knows how to speak it very well. All right, Lee the Bearcat. Yo, all shouldn't all come into America. Learn English is the main language. I speak English very well. I write English very well. I do all stuff in English. But you know what else I do very well? Speak Spanish. And you probably should too, especially being bordered by Mexico, South America, and Central America. It would make understanding that much better, right? All right, British MCP says, Joe, my father did and taught it. Used to be the international language. Esperanto, yes. But, nobody talks. It's sort of just one of those fringe things right now. Okay, let's see. Michael Egberto reminds me of a recent Blue Sky post of mine. I'm a New Yorker. I see color. I like the differences. Most of the good stuff around here is because of differences in culture. Exactly. I love all cultures, right? I mean, there's absolutely nothing like going into an Italian restaurant and learning the culture, going into a French restaurant and learning the culture, going into a Nigerian restaurant and learning the culture, going into a Panamanian restaurant and enjoying my culture, going into a Jamaican restaurant and enjoying a part of my culture. I mean, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. Going to Denmark and eating fermented fish. Oh, I mean, great stuff. If you, instead of using what makes folks different as a learning, for me, I'm an engineer. I like to experiment, right? And I mean socially as well. It is great to just look at differences and say, what makes that tick? If I were younger and had a different audience, I'd be telling you some other jokes about differences, but I'm not going to do it here because, it's kind of, Anyway, but, so you're absolutely right, Michael Rudnin. Absolutely right. Let me see your Blue Sky post. Let's go ahead. Let's see, who was that from? AVQ. I'm a New Yorker. I see color and little differences. That said, let's put that post there, folks. Check out the brother's post. I'm going to just stick it up for Michael Rudnin here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen just for the heck of it. There's your post, senor. Come on, Egberto, do it right. There's your post, Mr. Rudnin. And that is what we need to do. We need to have posts. Grab onto somebody else's post and do things like this. Let's not allow Trump's prejudice, Trump's evil to emanate through all of our veins. Let's not do it. Let's do the right thing for a change, right? Let's do it. Let's be right. Let's love on each other, man. Let's do the right thing. Thank you for that one, Senor Rudnin. All right, let's see what else we got here. Joe, is it still here? Let us set up Politics Done Right group, learning Esperanto together. I'm there. Set it up, Joe, and I'll join and we can promote it right here, Joe. Learning Esperanto. Okay. Egberto, Congress gave away their War Powers Act after 1911. Congress can take them back if a president is so reckless to attack an ally. Exactly. You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. Lee Beercat says Tiger Woods was raised to be great by his dad. Yes, agreed. But you know what his dad also told him? What my mom told me, what my dad told me. And it's sad. I remember telling, I'm a member of the Houston Peace and Justice Center. And a particular woman in there, a white woman, looked at me and was telling me a story. And then I told her, yes, the story is true. And I heard that all of my life. She said, I feel so sad hearing that. But I grew up on the Canal Zone. I grew up on the Canal Zone in next to Panama. I'm a Panamanian, but grew up on the Canal Zone in substandard housing that, though, remember I told you, the Canal Zone in Panama was an apartheid state. Panamanians the Americans who lived on the Canal Zone get upset when I say that, but they lived in nice homes, manicured everything. Panamanians living in the Canal Zone lived in substandard housing. Okay, and I wrote as Trump is trying to take over the canal supposedly. I went into some of our Panamanian groups, and a lot of these are from the Americans who lived in the Canal Zone, not the Panamanians who lived in the Canal Zone. And I said that America is an apartheid state, and they raised hell. That you're not telling the truth. And I explained to them the Canal Zone had its own justice system, police, fire, and everything. They separated the Panamanians from the Americans. Panamanian schools were substandard to the American schools not with intelligence, but with the supplies, etc. And we had to fight to integrate those schools with Panamanians and American schools. And then when we went to the American schools, because we had to fight so hard, it turned out we took all the major places in the first year that we graduated with them. But our parents would always tell us, you have to be twice as good, three times as good. My work ethic comes from my dad telling me something that Lee Beercat, you likely never had to hear. You never had to hear. To make it in America, you have to be twice as good as the majority population in America. You never had to hear that. I explained all of that in this book I wrote called Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism didn't stop my smile, hope, or journey forward. You never had to hear that. So yeah, you are absolutely right. Tiger Woods was raised to be great by his dad. And everybody you see melanated like myself, when doing something above or beyond, we have had to hear that. You have to be twice as good, three times as good. So yeah, you're right, brother. All right, isn't ICE moving on people now? Yes, they are. I think they already did some in San Antonio. Lee Beercat also says, are cartels terror? Cartels are terror. Yeah, they are. But so are many organizations in the United States that terrorize countries around the world. Some corporations in America actually terrorize people in other countries to extract their wealth. You want those countries to come and attack the United States? You want them to come and invade the United States? You know what we did with the fruit companies in Central America? Do you know what we did with the oil companies in South America? And whenever they stand up, somehow they're terrorists. That is why we need to read books and learn history and this stuff. And that is why they don't want you to learn history. They don't want you to learn. They want to keep you. Americans are great people, but they want to keep you ignorant to the rest of the world. And that's what we hope many of us would be able to solve here. Anyway, we got a great show, and we're going to start today. Oh, you know what? It's amazing. As usual, I'm right up to the edge when I'm putting the show together, and I forgot to cue the two stories that we're taking today. So we are about to cue what we're going to talk about right now, and I'm about to throw that into the queue right now. As soon as it comes up, I'm going to cue the two stories, and here it is. I am very upset at our mainstream media. Well, I've been upset at our mainstream media for a while now, but specifically on how they're talking and handling Panama. Okay? So let me play what I did this morning, and then we'll take it on the other side. The manner in which the American press is covering the Panama Canal issue, Donald Trump's threat to take the canal, is a dereliction of duty. I want you to just get a simple example of the type of coverage and the narrative that's being used. I mean, and this is not just to blame MSNBC or any particular one in particularly. The problem is the poor narrative and looking at the full picture of what this convicted felon president is doing. Listen to this coverage. It seems pleasant enough. It seems straightforward enough, but it's all wrong. Check this out.
Just this morning at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, here's what the president of Panama said when he was asked about Trump's threats to take the canal by force.
Mr. President, are you worried about an American invasion?
Lo mismo que allá.
Have you congratulated Mr. Trump yet?
Por favor, presidente
Be serious, be serious.
Would you like to congratulate Mr. Trump?
I already did when he won.
Let's bring in Eugene Daniels, White House correspondent for Politico and an MSNBC political contributor. This is where we are now, Eugene. But look, Panama's president said, be serious, right? So there are a lot of people who are asking, is Trump serious? Is the Panama Canal a hill he's willing to die on? How serious is he?
I think what he's serious about is the concept of kind of America expanding and the idea of America becoming, bigger in a way that really the country hasn't done in a very long time. I also think it's more of a show of strength, right? He wants folks to see this country as one that has the capability of expanding to other countries that folks are taking over the Panama Canal, which is not as easy, is not easy. It's easier said than done, right? That's at the top of the list. But I do think this is one of those things that if you know Donald Trump, as we all do, when he kind of gets obsessed with something, it keeps coming up and it keeps coming back. And he has talked to his aides about what that would actually look like, both for Greenland and for the Panama Canal. And it's not something that other presidents have never talked about, right? George W. Bush talked about the Panama Canal, for example. That's something that has been a part of the conversation. I think because of the way that Donald Trump does it, people seem to want to think that it's a joke. It's hard to know, what's going on in Donald Trump's head. And if he was serious when he said he's not ruling out kind of any military or economic powers to take over these areas and these places. But he is serious about the expansion of the country in some kind of way, because he knows that it speaks to his base.
Now, this issue with Panama just came out of the blue, right? To many, that's how it came out of the blue. Now, what the reporter is attempting to say is, hey, well, Bush spoke about the Panama Canal and the issues with the Panama Canal before. And Bush spoke about it because, again, they felt that maybe other countries were coming into Panama and taking more, not control, but being too cozy with the Panamanians and the canal. So, yeah, it is expected that Bush and others would have spoken about it that way. But none of them have ever said, we are going to come over and territorially take over the canal. Again, there are treaties involved here. And to get that treaty signed, Panama had to sign a little poison amendment to that treaty, where they said, well, the United States will get the right to come in if for some reason the canal neutrality is not urged. I mean, it's something to that nature. And that is what Trump believes he can win over in threatening Panama. But here's the reality. What most of these reporters aren't covering is that just like this thug, our president, has been convicted in America of tax evasion, not paying his taxes. It's the same thing he's being accused of in Panama since 2019 and is still in front of the courts. What this man is trying to do is use the power, the integrity of the United States to go after Panama and threaten the canal with the expectation that Panama will say, okay, we give Trump, you don't have to worry about tax evasion. Your Trump towers and all this stuff out here that you are labeling, that you are using your name for, we'll go easy on you. We won't discuss the drug dealings that occur in your buildings anymore. We won't discuss the tax evasion anymore. None of this is making our media. So if for some reason Donald Trump goes into Panama and starts to talk about, well, it's because of how much you're charging our ships to go through, even though the only American ships that go through are military ships, because all the other ships are flagged elsewhere. The only ships that go through that pays from America is the ships that go through from our military, which goes through at a huge discount. He will convince Americans, if the media doesn't do its job, that it's a righteous effort, when it's just a personal vendetta to bribe the country into dropping the case against his businesses. Folks, why aren't you hearing that? And if you hear that, then there would be much more pushback when this thug in chief who evades taxes in the United States and tries to evade taxes everywhere else would get a chance to come. They would get a chance to think straightly. Are we using the power of the United States government to really go attack another country? Folks, wake up. This guy killed a whole lot of folks with his mismanagement of COVID for personal gain. Do you think he cares about killing Panamanians for personal gain and harming our reputation for personal gain? Wake up, folks. Yeah. Be woke.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand.
Yes, be woke. It's time for you to really, really, really get woke. Because I tell you, what's occurring right now is a shame. You sit back there and you listen to what the news is talking about. And here's the problem. For those of us who read news from all over the world, or from those of us who have other experiences around the world, and you listen to the milquetoast kind of news that we get here, what they put on a reel. I mean, we have news 24/7, but it's not real news. It's not meaty news. It's not news that you can digest. When I tell you the reason that Donald Trump wants to go into Panama is because of his own problems in Panama. When we talk about the reason Donald Trump is wanting to go back again and now support TikTok, and by the way, I do support TikTok, but he figured out a way that, well, you know what? We can control America's mind. We now have Zuckerberg. We now have Elon Musk. But they have him, really. He doesn't know it yet. We have Elon Musk. So all the vast majority of Americans, where they're getting their stuff from, their data from, comes from these three guys. And now Donald Trump has some sort of modicum of control over all of them. Now, look, I don't care if they control it, right? Because we can always use these platforms in an educated manner. In other words, they can put in false information, pipe it in. Our problem is we have to educate folks in how to discern crap from reality, how to create knowledgeable sources and keep them separate, etc. That is what we have to do. That is what we have to promote. We don't have to, because we know that Zuckerberg is going to try to slant Facebook towards Trump. Likewise, Elon Musk has already done that with X, Twitter. Likewise, what the Chinese company who came to the inauguration of Trump, the owner of TikTok, to really make a deal. Look, we have to teach people how to be intelligent. I don't care if the guy is transactional, Eric. Panama must say no to anything that Trump comes with. And the next thing Panama needs to tell Trump, any attempt for the United States to take over the canal will mean the non-existence of a canal. That's all they need to say. Any attempt to take the canal, remember, this is not a sea level canal. That's all I've got to say. This is not a sea level canal. This canal requires that all countries live in peace and nobody tries to manhandle, etc. So let's be very, very clear. Thanks for putting that up on Blue Sky AVQ, because we need to make sure and do that. Let folks know the reality. Let's remember this. The Panama Canal is not, just like many other entities around this country. If we were to get enough bad people in this country, a lot of our major projects are not defensible. Okay? So that's why living in harmony is always much better than not. Loving on each other is a lot better than hating on each other, because you don't have a goal or a wish to malalign or do bad things. But when one person does one bad thing on someone else, let me tell you, folks, America has always believed in reciprocity, right? Be careful. Reciprocity works both ways. Anyhow, I have another video for you guys. Journalism. We have a journalist, Stephanie Ruhle, who says in her program, she will be following the money and she will hold Donald Trump to account. Let's hope she means that, because if she means that, then just maybe, we stand a chance. Check it out. I continue to watch the mainstream media simply coalesce into a framework, a narrative of normalizing Donald Trump, making it seem like he's just another president. And, well, you know, he's doing his thing. Biden did his thing his way. Trump is doing his thing his way. Well, Trump is not just another president. Trump is a crook, a convicted felon. And based on how he's building his administration, he's building an administration that is not only fascist, but one that will be taking retributions on those who oppose him by all means necessary. And it's showing. And unless this is exposed continuously in many different forms, it will continue. Earlier, I did some pieces on how the media is letting him slide. Well, a few days ago, Stephanie Ruhle said one thing. Her contribution to holding that admin accountable will be following the money, including keeping a watch on those who form part of the administration. And if the first part, her first report, is to be the modus operandi, it is a good start. And notice what I said. It is a good start. We need to not only provide the information on what he's doing overtly, but we need to dig deeper to show what's behind the curtain. Listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
To talk about how we are going to cover the second Trump administration. And let me repeat, nobody gets a free pass to operate without accountability, not the administration that just ended and not the ones sworn in today. On this show, we have always focused on following the money. It's our thing. Well, the Trump administration is all about business and the mixing of money, power, and politics. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep following the money. In his final address as president, Joe Biden left Americans with a very serious word of caution.
An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy.
That's a stark warning. An oligarchy, a small group of rich and powerful people with their own self-interests, often corrupt, could take control and run our government. Well, that made me think about who Donald Trump has appointed to his administration, and it's over a dozen billionaires. Then there's the biggest names in the tech world who had the best seats in the House at the inauguration today. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. The number 1, 2, and 3 wealthiest people in the whole wide world. And here comes Donald John Trump, the most transactional president in modern history. He is in the White House for the next 4 years. And on many of those guys' top issues, he appears to not have a position or he's malleable. So that means we, all of us, need to pay attention to the decisions that are getting made. And that's what we're going to do. Look at the people making those decisions, why and how they're going to affect all of us. The question, is this White House for sale? Because this time around, it appears to be built to deliver for corporations and the wealthiest. Let's start with his cabinet, Commerce Secretary, the person who will lead the way on a key Trump promise, tariffs, what he calls the most beautiful word in the dictionary. Well, his nominee is Howard Lutnick, who's got no government experience, but he definitely knows business. CEO of the Wall Street investment firm Cantor Fitzgerald, a really big backer of Trump's tariffs plans, and an even bigger supporter of cryptocurrencies, especially the world's most traded one, Tether. Tether is also under investigation by the federal government, but according to the Wall Street Journal, Tether's owner also expects Lutnick will help with any issues the company might face with the government. If Lutnick is confirmed, he said he will step down as CEO and divest his interests so he can meet ethics rules. Well, we'll be watching. But it's not just who he's picked for his cabinet. It's also some key roles in the administration. You know, like the people who oversee Medicare, NASA, Social Security. How about who's going to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission? That's the agency in charge of regulating financial markets. Well, for that one, Trump has nominated a guy named Paul Atkins. He definitely has the credentials. He was a former commissioner for the SEC. When he was there, he showed a pro-business bent, which is okay. But pay closer attention, because in recent years, he's been a big advocate of, you guessed it, cryptocurrencies. That would be a huge change from the outgoing chair, Gary Gensler, who regularly fought with the industry. Many believed he was downright unfriendly to crypto, simply not open for business. But with Atkins, this is about as far as the pendulum can possibly swing to the other side. And crypto is happy, happy, happy. After Trump made the announcement, Bitcoin surged past 100,000. Donald Trump, no surprise, took credit, posting on social media, "You are welcome." And don't forget this one. Trump now has his own crypto exchange, World Liberty Financial. And just this weekend, in the last 3 days, he and incoming First Lady Melania Trump launched their own meme coin cryptocurrencies, which you will not be surprised, soared. That is another area we are going to watch. And how about this one? Lobbyists. Donald Trump highly criticized them in the past, saying leaders in Washington should not answer to them. Do you remember? Drain the swamp. Well, after winning, who was the first White House hire? His campaign manager and former lobbyist, Susie Wiles, to be his chief of staff. During the first Trump administration, the lobbying firm where she worked, Ballard Partners, they brought in more than $70 million in fees. And since her appointment this time around, it has reportedly signed up at least 28 new clients. And one of them is the crypto firm Ripple. Ripple gave $5 million of its cryptocurrency to the Trump inauguration, and they are also fighting a lawsuit from the SEC. There is so much enthusiasm from the crypto world that they hosted their own crypto ball to kick off the inauguration weekend. Now, some might say that's just how D.C. works. President Biden, he had all sorts of lobbyists in his administration or lobbyists advising him, former ones. But what I am trying to say is what is happening in this administration is massive. It is something we need to focus on. But finally, Before we change focus, let us not forget the donors. Why are they there? Especially those huge tech executives I mentioned who are brazenly courting Trump. And boy, is it working. Elon Musk, of course, spent more than $250 million to help him get elected. And there are the $1 million donations for the inauguration from the likes of Amazon and Meta. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg even co-hosted the big reception tonight to celebrate the inauguration. And of course, Zuckerberg has a lot on the line. A possible federal antitrust lawsuit against Facebook could go to trial this year. Plus, he wants the U.S. government to help him fight attempts by foreign governments to regulate Meta. You can be sure we are going to keep a very close eye on what Zuckerberg gets for those donations. And as this second Trump administration takes shape, the American people, all of us, need to realize what exactly we are in for. More and more corporate dollars going into politics, and in return, those corporations getting unprecedented influence in the laws and regulations that favor their interests and maybe not ours. We must pay attention. And that's going to be our goal this year, to help all of us get better and smarter.
Again, if Stephanie Rule is right, if she does what she says her program will be doing, I hope the network allows her to do so, then it will be one small compartment of not just the narrative, but the holding of Donald Trump accountable for what we know he's going to do. Because, you know, he can't change his stripes. He is who he is, a criminal at heart, a thug at heart, a thief at heart, a swindler at heart, a misogynist at heart. He's all those things. So all those facets of who he is, his administration has got to be covered under that dome. Absolutely so. Cover it under that dome. Paul Fleming, Nebraska is one of the top meat producers in the U.S. It also has one of the worst labor shortages. The Trump administration has promised mass deportations on an unprecedented scale. We asked Nebraskans what that could mean. Actually, don't worry about that, Paul. They will pay a bribe to Donald Trump to ensure that he will have his people to go ahead and cut up the meat and process the meat. It's all transactional. The guy is a mob boss. So that's all. That's what he wants, and that's what he's going to get. Okay. Joe says, we were very poor on welfare. We'd set up tents and have so much fun for a change, a break from the city. Oh, really? That's an interesting story. You should come and tell us your story sometime. I have a section of my website, of my egbertowillies.com website. Let me just show you guys that, because it's one of the sections of the website that I love. Let me put that on the screen. I like to hear personal stories, you know, of what people have gone through. And there's this section on my website called, let me find it. I think it's People Making a Difference, where we hear your stories, you know. So here's this section of the website called People Making a Difference. And I've had so many, you guys should check out that portion of the website. There are so many stories there of people who are actually out there. I'm scrolling through it right now, that have made a difference in life. And I'm trying to get stories that we build up, people who have stories to tell, to encourage others. You know, a lot of people are going through some very difficult times, and a lot of times it's a good thing to have. Paul, let's see, Bridge MCP says, by the way, Egberto Willies, a post I made yesterday, people forced to follow them. Well, it's all over now, including on the Threads platform. I saw it. I saw that, and it's true. Now, I try to check mine, and apparently, I don't know if they've changed, but they weren't able to get mine yet. Don't know why, you know, but we'll see. All right, we have Paul Fleming, new on MSNBC. Let's see. Let me go ahead and fix this thing first. New on MSNBC, the Trump administration has removed Admiral Linda Fagan, the Coast Guard top admiral. Won't you know it's a woman? The first woman he took off, a woman. I mean, first person he took off, a woman, right? Fagan made history in 2022 under President Biden as the first woman to be appointed to lead a military service. Now, you see what we get if we get Hexeth, right? Hopefully, we won't. Melanie Keelan says, love autobiographical tales. Yes, I do too. Maybe we should do one with you and your journey in Barcelona, Spain. You know, I'd like to do more of them with you know, I've been doing them as interviews. I need to do them more as the people making a difference for the website. All right, let's see what else have I missed. Anybody want to give us a call? 281-832-7747. 281-823. Oh, give me 832. 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. Anybody wants to call and give me a quick something, whatever you want to say. We only have a few minutes left. And you know, this is your show. I'll always like to hear your voice. Anybody wants to call? Steigen Bergen Greek says, isn't it about time we strip the presidency of this absurd pardon power? I think so, because he has turned it into a mockery, you know, a complete mockery. But hey, we knew he would do that. We knew that he would do that. Okay, folks, it's time for my ask. Please consider supporting the program, what we do here. There are several ways to support the program. One, you can become a patron, and that is politicsdoneright.com/patron. That's the way to become a patron, and we have a lot of different tier levels. Please consider becoming a patron. But my big ask, or it's actually a little ask, is for you to become a paid subscriber of our newsletter, Egberto Off the Record. Our newsletter is not just a newsletter. Our newsletter gives you stories in detail. All right, here we go. Joe. How is my good friend doing? Come on in, Joe.
Hello. I'm not on fire. Everything's okay. Except the
Great.
place that I used to camp out when I was a child. Cascade Lake is gone. I mean, almost. And it's jumping the big freeway. In LA, we don't talk about, well, there's still fire around here, if you can tell very things. But we don't talk about how many miles a place is from another place. We talk about how many minutes it takes to drive.
Oh, wow.
So, and then we talk about, is it traffic or not traffic time? So something 1 minute away or 10 minutes away, depending on traffic. But I just wanted to say I want to do the Esperanto thing with anyone who's interested in learning a language that we all can speak. It has the roots of so many languages.
Well, please, I saw that. I hope you, yeah, I know you guys are in an area that's under fire. I get it. Let me just say this. Start the group, start the Esperanto group and advertise it right here on KPFT. I mean, hear me, KPFT, on Politics Done Right. And we'll put the link to the news group there so that we can have Politics Done Right doing Esperanto. Wouldn't that be great?
And some people know a lot about it already, so please send information you have because I'm starting from scratch. The only thing I know about it is that it's very cool and so many things about it. If you read one sentence of Esperanto, it has a root to every language. That's the whole point. So anyone who speaks anything can grasp some knowledge from one sentence.
Well, let me tell you what, when you create the group, I'm going to pass it along to a friend of mine who actually speaks Esperanto. Okay? And every now and then...
ideas about how to learn it.
I don't know, but again, like I said, if you start the group, I'll let him come in there and work with you, and the two of you can figure out how to...
Can I tell you one more thing about Esperanto?
Of course.
Real quick, or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There was, at the Amundsen Theater in Los Angeles, there was a play that I went to. I didn't know what it was going to be about. It was wonderful. It was about 15 years ago. And it was about a poet who got locked up in Iraq. He was an Iraqi resistance person, a humanist. And he learned Esperanto so he could smuggle notes out from his prison cell to the world, believing that everyone would understand his poetry and everything that he wrote. And it was so beautiful. He was so eloquent, and nobody understood it. We must learn to learn.
Well, look,
It was such a beautiful play. It was so heartbreaking.
I'm waiting for your group. I don't know if you want to do it on which platform you do it, but just let us know and we'll take it from there, okay? I got to close out of here now,
thank you,
Joe.
and everybody, thank you.
Thank you so kindly, Joe. You have a wonderful and stay safe. Bye-bye. Anyway, folks, please support the program however you can. Please consider becoming paid subscribers of our newsletter. We do a lot of, I promise you, we do a lot of good work on the newsletter. And let me just give you a little rundown of what pay. First of all, let me give a rundown by showing you when you get to our newsletter. Of course, you get the newsletter in the mail if you want to. But again, you also have the website with all the newsletters that are there, and this part is the free part of the newsletter, right? But let me give an example of what we do to try to give a little perks to those people who subscribe. If you take a look at this is what the site looked like. This is one of our newsletters. This article, you get the full video. Now, oh, this is the wrong one that I'm showing here. Let me show this one, right? I think Trump says he's taking the Panama Canal. Let's look at that one, okay? You get the full video of explanation, and then you get a summary. And for those who are paid subscribers, you get more than the summary. You get a complete article giving stuff in more detail. Likewise, all the subscribers who are paid subscribers to our newsletter, you get access to this link up here called My Books. And in that link, you get access to my current 5 books, and all subsequent books that I write will be on here again that you can read directly here. And likewise, you get all our sanitized podcasts from both KPFT and the one that we do online. So there are perks. Of course, there are other perks that we give to our paid subscribers. Again, we're really trying to do this to subsidize all the work that we do. So please consider becoming a paid subscriber by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. And let me go ahead and put that in the feed one more time. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It is inexpensive. It's a cup of coffee. And I'm sure if you saw me on the streets, you'd say, Egberto, vamos a tomar una taza de café. Let's go ahead and have a cup of coffee. So, folks, thank you so kindly. Got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.